Now, it may not seem like it on the surface, but there's a very distinct difference between ordering a product online and giving a donation online. When you order a product online, the benefit often occurs second and the transaction occurs first. For example, you go online, you go through the checkout process and you get your book in the mail from Amazon the next day. It's amazing. When you give a gift online or a donation, it's often exactly opposite. You are blessed, you're inspired, you're compelled with a vision of how you can make a difference in the world, and that intangible benefit that you receive as the donor often occurs first and the transaction second. This is a critically important distinction to keep in mind when you're planning your online fundraising strategy. Imagine this blue line represents the status quo. This is where your potential donors live. Frankly, this is where everybody lives. Now, in order to get somebody to give a gift, I have to move them through 3 different levels: interest, involvement, and investment. But the problem is everybody's down here in the status quo. So what do we need? We need an interrupter, something that arrests attention and gets somebody to move into that very first phase of interest. Now that interest builds until it reaches an engagement point. And an engagement point can be a click, it can be an open of an email, it can be a Facebook like. This is where somebody begins to invest mental energy thinking about your cause or your organization. Now that involvement is going to build until it reaches this moment of decision. This is where you present your ask to the donor and they have one of 2 choices to make. They can say, no, I don't want to give. They return back to the status quo and it's kind of game over for today. Or they say yes. And if they say yes, this is where they reach that emotional climax. This is where that intangible benefit is paid to the donor. Now, depending on how strong that feeling is going to determine your conversion horizon. If it's a very intense feeling, then the donor may be willing to go through more work to complete the transaction. But every step, every click, every field that you have in your form that the donor needs to complete adds additional friction to the process, and friction can eventually lead to abandonment. Keep in mind that for the donor, the benefit is paid first, and you want to reduce as much of the friction as you possibly can so that you get more yeses and less abandonment.